All right, it is 10:02, so we'll be starting the meeting right now. Okay, I'd like to welcome you all to the technical assistance session for the STEP program for fiscal year 27. Welcome. We're going to be going through this one page at a time. There we go. Everyone should see STEP fiscal year 2027 right now. Again, if you have any questions, please type them into the chat. All right, and we'll see if we can get those answered as quickly as possible. And if you have anything that you would like to discuss with the group, we just would ask to hold off until we actually have, we'll take a few pauses during the course of the meeting if there's any pages that are, that will stand out, okay? This is a new process this year, so please bear with us. There might be some growing pains. So let's get going. Okay, the purpose of the program's purpose and overview for STEP, the State Training and Employment Program. The core mission is to strengthen Alaska's workforce by funding training that leads to sustainable economic independence. This sheet basically is showing what the primary outcomes are. The most important one being the self-sustaining employment in high-demand sectors. The strategic emphasis, which is prioritizing high demand occupations with high non-resident hire rates, because we do want to build up the local capacity for those positions and stop hiring people from outside the state, as well as an integrated approach. This presentation unifying the two critical resources for the applicants, the formal request for granted application and the technical assistance. The mission and goals, the core purpose is to drive economic growth through targeted workforce investment to fund training that moves Alaskans into good jobs with recognized credentials. We are looking at employer demand for positions, high value jobs, resident hire, that is extremely important, credentialing to make sure that people have credentials that they can take to other jobs, career growth to improve their earnings and facilitate long-term career growth, and equitable access to make sure that everyone in the state, regardless of group, regardless of location, is getting the same opportunities. Grant priorities, the strategic emphasis and focus areas. The high impact focus area, projects must demonstrate alignment with these key strategic priorities: employer engagement, self-sustaining employment, stackable credentials, wage and career growth, regional relevance, equity and access. Priority funding criteria, we prioritize projects that address high non-resident hire occupations and demonstrate clear pathways to sustainable local employment. The target industries have not changed that much since last year. The strategic focus on high demand sectors, healthcare, construction, maritime and marine trades, oil and gas, mining, transportation and warehousing, information technology, and tourism and hospitality. And these sectors are based on current economic data and state priorities to maximize workforce impact. The grant priorities. This is how projects are going to align with those priorities. The strategic vision is ensuring investments deliver tangible results for Alaska. The alignment criteria, successful proposals demonstrate clear connection to industry needs and measurable workforce outcomes. The key alignment factors, there are the target occupations, the employer commitments, training design, work-based learning, regional impact, and stackable credentials. The allowable training activities paid for by STEP, the occupational skills training, apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship, on-the-job training, incumbent worker upskilling, industry certifications, and supportive services. Eligible applicants for the grant, who can apply? Organizations eligible to receive STEP grant funding include accredited training providers, employers and industry associations, labor unions and apprenticeship sponsors, nonprofits and community organizations, school districts and adult education providers. Mandatory for funding, the capacity requirements, they must have programmatic expertise, fiscal controls, data and reporting, and compliance standards. At this point, I would like to ask if anybody has any questions on this particular page. Anybody who is a new grantee who's never applied for a grant before? Okay, we're going to move on. STEP participant eligibility. Who can be served? Individuals receiving training services must meet the following criteria. They must be an Alaska resident. They must be unemployed or underemployed, dislocated workers, member of priority populations, and they must meet the minimum requirements for the specific training program. The required verification are for proof of residency, proof that they have paid, or they also must have paid into unemployment, and they must be authorized to work in the United States. Participant services. Comprehensive support services designed to remove barriers and ensure successful training completion and employment. Outreach, intake, and assessment. The initial engagement and evaluation of participant to see what they need exactly and to see if they are suitable to take part in the program. Training and work-based learning. Core instructional activities and practical experience components align with industry standards. Supportive services, assistance of transportation, supplies, and other barriers. This is just basically to see what they may require in the way of supportive services. Job placement and referrals, follow-up, and retention support. Participant services requirement is 50% of your award. At least 50% of total STEP funds awarded under this grant must be expended on participant services. This requirement applies to actual STEP expenditures and does not include leveraged or non-STEP funds. Direct services and costs that primarily benefit enrolled participants and support training, training completion, credential attainment, placement, or retention. At this point, I'm going to let Max go into the financial information of the grant.
Hi, my name is Max Mix. I'm the grant administrator for STEP. So if you have any financial questions, I'm the person you would reach out to. The STEP grants are competitive state-funded awards operating on a cost reimbursement basis. The funding model is the payments are based on approved budget line items and actual incurred costs, not simply grant award amounts. Award size, total funding availability and individual award caps are specified in the official RGA document. The period you're applying for is starting July 1st, 2026 and ending June 30th, 2027. No expenses can occur outside of this period of performance. Matching requirements. There is no match requirement for STEP. If matching funds are included, the applicant is responsible for reporting on it should they be awarded. We have an indirect cost limit for administrative, which is capped at 15%, meaning you cannot go over 15% of your approved budget for administration. Budget approval. All expenditures must align with the approved budget narrative specific line items. Ensuring fiscal responsibility and transparent use of state funds is mandatory. Funds are appropriated by the Alaska legislature and managed by DOL, Workforce Development. Sean, can you hit next? All cost charges to the grant must be necessary, reasonable, applicable, and documented. Some of the allowable costs are training expenses, so tuition, instructor wages, and essential training materials. Participant support, so transportation, childcare, required tools, PPP if necessary to complete training. Assessments and credentials, costs for entrance exams, skill assessments, and certifications and licensing fees. You can also use it for outreach engagement, recruitment activities, and employer engagement directly tied to the project that you're requesting funding for. Administrative costs, and then again, it goes to, there's a 15% cap on that. Unallowable costs, so purchase of land, buildings, and major constructions, renovation projects. Prohibited items is alcohol, beverages, entertainment, lobby, fines, and penalties. General fundraising, so costs associated with raising capital or organized fundraising campaigns. Bad debt, so losses from uncollectible accounts or contributions to contingency reserves. And misaligned costs, so expenses not directly related to an approved scope of work or budget narrative. The reference is to C4 200, the state policy defines guidance on cost allowability. This company highlights common examples, but there is more than just this. These are just the basic ones. All costs charged to the grant must be necessary, reasonable, allowable, and properly documented in accordance to federal and state grant requirements. So the stuff that we require for you to submit, we require that because the Fed, when the feds monitor us, we have to show them that too. So we hold the grantees to the same expectations. So we got personal services, which you can pay for salaries, wages for staff. That could be instructor and trainers. Employee travel for staff, in-state or out-of-state travel required, airfare, lodging, and transportation, and a state-approved per diem rates. And then we got contractual, which could be question. Susan?
Hey, I have a question as I was looking at this grant, and I know the 50% of participant support is mandatory now. And I believe part of participant support is the cost of providing the training, which means instructor wages. Now, we've always put those under personnel services, not under participant supports, but that is an allowable expense for participant support. Is that correct?
Are you saying you normally charge at the personal services?
Yes, we normally put it under personnel services, but it is actually wages for instructors who are teaching the training. So that money will move that wages into participant support. Is that the correct way to do this?
Suzanne, there are a number of appendices that are attached, and they go into a little more detail on exactly what can be considered something that directly benefits the participant, and things of like the actual cost of training them would be considered that. You don't have to move it from personnel services.
Okay, it would count as the support. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It's directly benefiting the participants.
Right. And that was my question. Do we need to change categories?
No, you do not.
Okay, thank you.
And supplies, operation, so like general office supplies, training materials used by staff, printing or administrative materials, participant support, so that could be tuition, training fees, books, tools, and training supplies, participant travel, and per diem for participants. And then grant administration, so that would be the management of the activities, the financial oversight, and compliance document support. And again, I'm going to keep saying it, limit per award amount is 15% can be used on administration. These costs, especially participant support items like per diem, travel, and supplies, can be requested while participants are actively enrolled in the training. Costs incurred outside the training period are generally unallowable. Essential records for checklists. Grantees must maintain and complete financial records for all grant expenditures. So detailed invoices and receipts. Proof of payment. So that could be bank statement, cancel checks, or credit card statements verifying expenditures. Time and effort records. Timesheets signed by employee or supervisor for all personal cost. That means if you guys receive this grant, you will need to keep active timesheets of staff and individuals that are using STEP funds. Participant records, eligible verification and attendance logs to support participants' related costs, and procurement documents, so quotes, bids, and sole source justifications for purchases over threshold limits. Validation standards, so we need the match verification, assist tracking, budget alignment with line items, contract files and deliverables, and travel records. And then this is just, you want to have this too because potentially we'll monitor you and ask for even more information on certain invoices or cost reimbursement requests.
All right, thank you, Max. During the application process, you will notice that this is the first time we've done this, the innovation and access bonus points in the RGA section 7, the optional scoring opportunity. Qualifying strategies, and I will be reading through this one. If anybody has any questions, please throw up your hand during this. Qualifying strategies, accelerated advancement, strategies that speed up participant career progression or wage growth beyond standard training outcomes. Technology-enabled delivery, innovative use of technology to improve service delivery efficiency or effectiveness. Expanded access, virtual or hybrid training models that significantly increase access for rural or underserved Alaskans. Employer co-investment, demonstrated financial or in-kind contributions from industry partners. Non-resident hire reduction, specific measurable strategies targeting occupations with high non-resident hire rates. These scoring considerations will look at alignment, which is documented connection to STEP priorities and labor market needs. Feasibility, implementation, readiness with clear timelines and resource allocation. Measurable outcomes, define metrics for success beyond standard reporting requirements, and evidence-based claims supported by attachments, employer letters, MOUs, platform descriptions. Application note, during the specific bonus prompts within egrams. Bonus points are added to your base score, which would come to a max of 105 total. These responses are optional and do not affect basic eligibility. The application components, proposal requirements, and checklist. Key proposal components. Essential elements required for a complete proposal. We need the executive summary and needs statement, which is your overview of your project and demonstrated workforce need. The target occupations and justification using labor market data supporting the selected occupations. Training model and curriculum. Detailed training plan, credentials, and schedule. The employer partnerships, the commitment letters, and work-based learning integration. And the recruitment and participant support, which is the outreach strategy, equity focus, and support services, as well as performance outcomes. Admin and fiscal requirements. The supporting documentation should verify organizational capacity and budget compliance with the budget narrative, the organizational capacity proof, the key staff resumes, the letters of support, and the required assurance and certifications. Everything must be submitted via egrams. Okay, the proposal assessment, the evaluation criteria and scoring rubric. Proposals are evaluated based on the 100-point scale. Reviewers assess the quality, feasibility, and alignment of each component with the STEP program's goals and state priorities. The core components, the need and strategic alignment, which would have a high weight, which is demonstrating the labor market demand in alignment with state sector priorities. The employer partnerships, which is also considered critical. Training, design, and quality, the curriculum relevance, industry recognized credentials, and clear career pathways. Equity and access, strategies to recruit and serve priority populations and underrepresented groups. And then we have the feasibility and impact, the project management plan. Is it a realistic timeline? Does it have qualified staffing and the organizational capacity to deliver on what's promised? The budget and cost effectiveness. Are the costs reasonable? And the cost per participant outcome, is that realistic? Past performance. We are going to be tracking record of meeting enrollment, completion, and employment targets and similar grants. And outcomes and data quality. Clear, measurable performance goals and robust systems for data tracking. Detailed evaluation, criteria, and scoring. That would be from the RGA section 6, the base scoring breakdown. The weighted categories, we have organizational capacity at 15%, project design and implementation at 25%, employer engagement at 15%, participant services and eligibility at 15%, outcomes and accountability at 15%, budget and fiscal management at 15%. So as you can see, the project design and implementation is the highest. The application process via egrams. All applications have to be put in through egrams, following the workflow to ensure a successful submission. Step number 1 is to register your organization and user accounts, confirm active status well before the deadline. Start the application after you've already initiated a project director request. Most folks have already put in their project director requests. Complete all the forms, all the sections, the project narrative, the budget details, and upload all the required attachments via PDF. Run the system validation. This is how we check for errors. It will give you a graphic that explains the errors that may exist in your application. And then finally, you would be submitting after you've validated and there are no more error messages, or if you're lucky enough to not have any at all, you would click the submit. The system will timestamp, and that is the official record. Okay, We do have, and there is the eGrams user guide, which is available on the login page. And there's the technical assistance contacts. We are asking that people put in any questions about the application they find through the grants website, which has actually been connected on the public notice. I believe it is, and I don't know, Xavier, if you could put that email address in the chat, I would appreciate it. I believe it's awib.grants@alaska.gov, because we will be publishing all answers. You definitely do not want to keep this off until the very end of the process, because the more people who are on the system, the slower it gets. We do keep it open until April 20th at 11:59 p.m. So once 4:30 on that day passes, you won't have anybody to ask any questions of. The no repayment protections is the RGA Section 4 compliance requirements. Prohibited recovery mechanisms. Core protection. Participants may not be required to repay STEP funds expended on their behalf for training or participant services. Banned instruments. These would include promissory notes, repayment agreements, and income share agreements. These are strictly prohibited for STEP-funded costs. Wage restrictions, wage withholding, reimbursement clauses, or similar mechanisms to recover STEP-funded costs from participants are not allowed. Condition of service. Participation cannot be conditioned on signing of any repayment agreements for grant-funded expenses. Scope and compliance. STEP-funded costs only. This prohibition applies strictly to costs covered by the grant. It does not prohibit charging for non-STEP portions. Clear disclosure. Any charges for non-STEP funded training portions must be clearly disclosed and separate from STEP funded payment. Supplement, not supplant. STEP funds must add to existing resources, not replace them. This critical references are all in Appendix D, definitions and key terms in the RGA for controlling requirements regarding participant costs and protections. Program exit rights, standard workforce development practices, voluntary participation. Participants engage in STEP training voluntarily and may discontinue participation at any time without coercion to remain. There are no penalties for exit. No financial penalties, fees, or debt may be imposed for STEP-funded services when a participant exits the program early. Support at exit. Providers should offer exit counseling, optional, to advise on training status impacts, credential testing options, and supportive service transitions. Property and materials. Participants must return loaned equipment or materials per provider policy upon exit. Consumable training supplies generally remain with the participant. Important note, while grantees may have internal academic or attendance policies, these cannot override the fundamental STEP protections against repayment. The re-enrollment policy, participants who exit in good standing may generally reapply or be re-enrolled if they remain eligible and funding slots are available. Equal opportunity and accommodations, ensuring access and fairness to all participants. Non-discrimination policy must be in place, and STEP programs must operate without discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, national origin, age, disability, or political affiliation or belief. Reasonable accommodations, which should be available upon request for qualified individuals with disabilities. Grantees must engage in an interactive process to determine appropriate modifications at no cost to the participant. Language access. Translation and interpretation services must be provided for individuals with limited English proficiency to ensure meaningful access to training and services. Physical and digital accessibility, training facilities, instructional materials, and digital content must meet accessibility standards for all users. A safe environment, strict prohibitions against harassment, retaliation, and intimidation must be in place. Complaints must be addressed promptly and confidentially. Filing a complaint. If you believe you have been subjected to discrimination, you may file a complaint within 180 days of the alleged violation. Request for support. You should be able to contact the grantee's EEO officer. You can email myself or call. And this is just our get in touch, our contact information. There's my own information, and there's Max's as well. And our program leadership, our executive director is Dirk Kraft, and our assistant director is Jeff Stebro. Okay. And thank you for your interest in our STEP FY27 program. Our official Q&A process: submit written questions as described in the RGA. Official responses will be published as an addenda. Technical assistance and office hours for live support and clarifications, and you can contact the AWIB staff as mentioned earlier. That is the end of the presentation. But we have some additional documentation. There are some technical assistance documents that we will be making available on the AWIB page as well. At this point, if anybody would have any questions, we can try to go through.
This is Suzanne. Can you just do an overview again of the second appendices that's due about the successful completion of training and how you want us to fill that out?
Let's see. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here for a moment. Okay. Okay. I have to apologize, Suzanne, as this is a new process. A lot of these are unfamiliar. So I'm just going through the technical assistance guide to see if I can find an exact answer to your question. We are going to make this technical assistance guide available. I am not going to be able to go through it today because it is a little bit long.
Suzanne, are you, this is Root. Are you asking about Appendices C? Is it the performance one?
Oh, sorry, my microphone was off. Yes, the performance one. That is the one I'm asking. Yeah, I just want to know what your expectations for us filling that out. And I mean, it looks really simple. How many people have you trained? How many successfully completed? But I'm unsure of how you want us to fill that out.
Good morning, Suzanne. This is Jeff. You're referencing Appendix C, correct? The step performance indicators, not the second appendix, which is the budget narrative. I mean, sorry,
Correct,
the
correct.
the credential.
Yes, sorry.
I just want to make
Exactly.
sure. I'm like, had to pull
Yes.
up the document just to make sure.
Yeah, not
Like
the budget
Sean-
narrative, the performance one.
Okay. Like Sean said, there is a detailed step TA guide that goes into quite a bit of detail about the whole entire new application. But really, it is as simple as you say, like you mentioned, is really looking at the statutory metrics, part two, the statutory metrics. Those are statutory, which are required by step statute, that you meet or exceed those numbers. And then for the program design projections, the total number of new enrollments, those are going to be how many new enrollments are you projecting for fiscal year 2027. And that's going to be a number that will be a deliverable. And then training completion rate is how many of those total enrolled, let's say you enroll 100 persons into your training program, you plan to enroll 100 persons into your training program. Of those 100, what percentage is going to be complete that training? And right now, this is the first year, so there's no real benchmarks. The expectation is, like it says in the appendix, 75 to 90% of your training persons you put through training would complete. So it's up to you to kind of determine what you feel would be the best number that you feel you can attain. And the hope would be the expected benchmark range would be 75 to 90%. Does that answer a little bit of your question? Would you like more detail?
I think I just wanted to make sure it was as straightforward as it appeared to me when I read over it.
Okay.
Because there's really no past data to
No.
move on, except that we have that data within our own organization, and so we can just roll that out. But that was kind of where I was going, is what do you want for backup? But we're projecting, and then at the end, will you guys take that data and calculate it, or is that something you're going to ask us to do?
So, like you said, I think most of the applicants who apply and then are awarded do keep track of the completion rate. So you do probably, if you do have historical data, that can kind of help you figure it out. If not, it is kind of just kind of looking at the program and trying to develop a number. And then as we progress, you'll start to have that data and be able to then use that data to help kind of refine your completion rate. This is a rate that the board would like to start seeing just kind of as an overall performance metric for steps. So that's one of the reasons why it was added. But again, for like this year, there's no right or wrong answers. We're starting to develop the data if you don't have it so that we can kind of move forward and you can start using and being mindful of needing to start tracking credential rates so that you can report out your performance on that particular metric.
Okay, and I did read something about, and I don't know if this is just future or what, but talked about where they are the year after training, and if they're making employed and making more money than they were 6 months prior to taking the training, and just wondering, but you're not asking us for that data, are you?
No, Suzanne. So that data, that's the statutory performance metrics. I'm looking at the appendices, and it's on page 11 specifically around the statutory performance metrics. Sean, it might be a little bit hard to find in the TA guide specifically.
Okay.
But these are the performance metrics listed in Alaska state statute. And those are all determined through UI, wage data, and through a research and analysis, doing a look back for the previous year using the data that they have available to be able to provide these performance metrics for step subrecipients. So no, you would not be calculating this data. That data is being calculated by the state of Alaska, specifically the research and analysis section, using the tools that they have to be able to get the performance metric for employment retention rate, wage gain, training relevance to employment. And then there is a couple that participant satisfaction, employer satisfaction, that we'll be working on to try and be able to better capture those metrics. But specifically, the wage gain and employment retention, those are being calculated by RNA, and then, the training relevance to employment, participant satisfaction, employer satisfaction. We're going to be working on better ways to capture that statutory required metrics to be able to provide and get that data.
Excellent. That's where it should be collected. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Steve Quinn. First, I want to thank everyone for doing this. I'm a little confused as to where to find everything. So the RGA is on egrams. The appendices will be on the website. The slide deck will be on the website. And the TA will be on the website.
The additional forms will be posted on the website, like the guide that we're looking at on my screen right now. We will make this available on the AWeB website on the main page.
And I'm sorry, so what am I looking at right now? I'm unclear.
This is the TA guide itself. This is for the step. This is the technical assistance guide for the entire application process.
Okay, so
And
the TA guide will be on the
the
website.
RGA.
The
Correct.
appendices will be on the website, but the RGA is in egrams.
It's in egrams, and so are the appendices. They're in egrams as well. So once you log in,
So-
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Sean, but just to clarify, I think what we're going to do is we're going to add just, for the confusion, because it's confusing having stuff in both areas. So I think we're just going to add everything on both sites.
Okay.
So you can go to egrams or you can go to our website. So that's what we'll plan on doing.
Okay, thank you. For some reason, I have maybe just an RGA that has since been updated because I had a due date of April 1. But thank you for putting everything on the website as you do it. I really appreciate that, having everything at once. I'm more familiar from federal grants, so please excuse the ignorance. You mentioned that when we ask a question on that email, that they get posted. Is there a link for that as well?
So the AWeB main page.
I'm sorry?
There's a Q&A link at the bottom of the AWeB page.
Okay.
That will show where those questions will be posted. The answers, questions and answers. I apologize.
Okay, so we kind of check it daily and see what's been updated then.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for everything. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So everything, I'm just showing the AWeB web page right now. So when you go to the AWeB web page, you're going to scroll down, you're going to see what's new. And then here's where the FAQs will be posted. We'll also add documents in this area as well. And then when you go into egrams main page, you're going to scroll down and you're going to go to state training and employment, click on step 27 and documents. You'll be able to see the documents here as well.
Thank you again.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Ken.
Oh, yeah, hello. On the Appendix A, the budget summary inputs, down where you have the personal and participant services on that part. But you also have fringe there too. Beforehand, like last year, we had the wage and fringe all put together in the total wage. So do you want us to separate that? I do separate it in my narrative part. I tell y'all, this is part of the regular wage and this is part of our fringe, and I'll take the fringe times whatever the hours are. This is what the fringe cost will be. But on this form right here, is that or can I just include it just in the participant service in the one area? Or do you want me to separate what the fringes are out of the wage?
You would do what you did last year, where you just put how much you are going to put in wages, and you'll separate it in the second part.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other questions?
So it looks like there was, for Dennis, just a real quick clarifying question from your chat message. Does the state release that information in a report or anything? Are you referencing the performance metrics that I was speaking about previously? Yes, okay. Yes, there is a report, and I can only remember the acronym that is created. It's the TPPR report. And that report is going to be uploaded to the website and also available on eGrants. And that is a report that outlines all state and federal workforce training programs. It's just an overview and performance metrics for specifically the state performance metrics, and some from federal. So that will be on, again, the website that Root showed a little while ago, and then also in eGrams, so you have access to that report.
What was it called again?
Oh man, you're putting me on the spot. It's the TPPR. If you have a moment, I'll pull it up real quick, just so unless Root Sabian remember exactly what it means, since I don't
You said
off the top of my.
PPR? I just can't understand the letters you're saying.
Give me a second. I'll pull it up. And I always might like superimpose the letters around too. So give me a quick second to find the report.
I want to say it's the training program performance report.
I think that might be right. There it is. Yeah, it's Tango Papa Papa Romeo Alaska Training Program Performance Report. And it outlines specifically the training programs, federal programs of WA, adult, dislocated worker and youth, STEP, adult education. It also has reports on the Alaska Technical Center and AvTech, which are statutory requirements, and then Carl Perkins post-secondary and secondary. So that's what you'll see the contents of the report.
Unknown caller.
Ken, did you have another question?
Yes, also on the personnel, only the portion of staff time delivering direct service to staff participants may be counted. It says administrative, and I know what the general program manager duties are not qualified. As some of us wear our different hats in that area, and the smaller ones, does that mean entry into jobs of the participants, the monthly reports, reimbursements, going into jobs? Is that included as administrated, or is that can be separate for reimbursement?
And that is a great question. So direct services would include anything that you're doing that's working directly with the participant. So you're providing training for them. You're working directly with the participant. However, when you are working, doing other things, those would be considered administrative. So whatever you're doing that's directly related to that participant will be considered your direct service to that participant. Does that make sense?
Kind of, because like last year, the year before that, when you guys I separated my hours because you wanted me to separate because I do, the programming, I did the report, and I did administrative, that part in that area.
So it'll be
Even
the
though
same, it'll be the
even
same
though
thing
we
with,
are even though we are putting in the participants into jobs, I don't see how that's administrative, but because it is helping because we're including them into jobs, into the data.
I don't think I understand your question at this point.
Okay.
What,
I'll
what I'm
talk to you
saying,
later.
okay, all right, no problem.
Thank you.
But anything,
Actually,
go ahead.
Sorry, Xavier, can please put that question in writing and send it to the AWEB email address so we can actually be able to read it and then be able to provide a structured and well thought out proper answer to be able to answer that question, and then so that everyone will be also be able to see the guidance from the question that you asked. Thank you, Ken. I appreciate that.
Yeah, because I'm just working, because the way I did it last year and the year before, then the year before, now into this one is how you got it worded, the administrative and general program manager. I understand that part, but the administrative part that I do in the data part, that was my question. But I'll put that in there so we can get that clarified. And I appreciate your help in this matter.
Right. Thank you, Ken.
All right. Does anybody have any other pressing questions right now? Well, what we'll do then, what we're going to do now is we're going to end the meeting, but we will stay on here in case anybody has any other questions that they would like to field over the next 15, 20 minutes. But thank you all for attending. We will be making this recording available. And it will be available on the AWEB website. Meadow, you would just contact me. You can email me directly about login assistance. This is Sean. Sorry. Well, Suzanne, Dennis, Gabriel, Christopher, you have any questions?
I don't think so. I was just kind of waiting to see if there was any other questions because I'm just trying to learn all I can.
No worries.
I guess I do on the optional questions. It looks to me like you're asking for additional letters of, I guess I'll say support or cooperation from contractors that put our people to work. You're looking for letters from our contractors saying, yes, this organization is doing a good job and really helping increase our workforce or increase skills or that sort of thing.
We've always looked for that, for those kind of documents, for that kind of backup support, but this is, and Jeff can correct me if I'm wrong, it's more about formalizing those as into the point scoring system when we look at the applications during the review.
So we always get letters of support for our STEP grant from our contractors. And I guess my question is, do we need additional letters that focus on our outcomes, on our completed trainees from the contract? I mean, it's kind of a different thing. In general, we have support and our contractors hire all the people we train. And that's the letters I always send with our grant application. So the question is, do you want additional ones focusing in on our output of training in addition to for those bonus points?
I'm going to say that the idea of putting in extra letters, I mean, if we have letters and they get across that information, that's great. Maybe if the letters have that a little bit more information, if they're a little more detailed. But I do think that this is a matter of just formally counting, giving you points for letters. Sometimes people don't provide those letters.
Oh, okay. That helps me a lot.
Okay.
That
Okay.
answered my question. I'm gonna go ahead and leave. Suzanne?
Yep, sounds great. All right. Well,
Thanks,
thank
everybody.
you guys.
Bye-bye. And that leaves Christopher. Do you have any questions?
I do have a question. Obviously, it's probably a little bit different for us to be here. I think that the people in the room are probably the people that are more appropriate in some ways, but we do training with many of the people that were just in this room, and I think the employment portion of it is part of the discussion of if they do training through any organization that receives this STEP grant. For our people, I mean, what is the timeline that they need to be employed by for them to be eligible for the STEP funding?
They have to have contributed to unemployment in the last 5 years.
Right, right. I guess what I mean is for the performance metrics.
Hi, this is Xavier. I think I understand what you're asking. And let me clarify. You're asking what is the timeline after they have completed training for them to be employed? Am I understanding that correct?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I misunderstood that.
That's okay, Sean. All right. So there are two things that are done after training has completed. So we anticipate they'll go into training within a year after they complete it, hopefully right after the training is completed. But we look at the first 6 months. We'll check in 6 months, and then there's another check between the 7th and 12th month. So they need to be employed within a year after that training has been completed. And that's a short answer to the question.
Okay, that's a good answer. And then as far as tracking training to employment, obviously we have some of those industries you mentioned for high growth, but is it really any that fall in there, or does the credential, for example, if you have training through XYZ, and they're an employer as well, they don't have to end up with that employer necessarily. They just have to end up with something that matches that credential.
We would love to see that. we would love to see them working in the field that they were trained in. Yes.
Yeah, sounds like sometimes that doesn't happen, but obviously that's the goal. I think that would be the goal. I just want to be clear on that expectation, just because we have people release all over. Okay,
Christopher,
I think
I just wanted
go
to
ahead.
speak to your question once really quick. If I just just stop me if I'm incorrect. You're talking about, like, do they have to go to work for the employer that you have, that you said that were people who are actually committing to hiring people?
Likely. I mean, the
Oh,
reason I say that is because, let's just use the model of many people in here.
Mm.
They both are the employer and the trainer
sure.
for many, or they contract out someone to train. Um, Whereas for us, we would rely on the training as well as the employer, potentially with limited slots for them to be able to get in to a competitive employment position. And so I guess we're trying to figure out the latitude of taking a credential or training that may allow them to be employable, but
Yeah,
because of the different reasons that, for example, apprenticeships are not always hiring, they may not end up with that particular training provider and or employer. They might end up in something adjacent to it.
sure. Okay.
I think that answers my question. I think that helps. And I guess the last question, you said personal services is possible. So then you're saying that potentially positions that might be more, not administrative, I don't want to use that word, but someone who might be using their time to manage this program or this funding, is that an allowable cost?
It is an allowable cost, but it must, in order for it to be considered part of the participant services category, is they've got to be working directly with that participant, not just
Yep.
managing the program. So a lot of um, applicants will put in things to cover the cost of the training itself, but not really focusing on the participant themselves. Does it make sense? So this program is strictly for training participants. So that's why the request to have 50% of the funds go toward the participant services portion of it. So that would include instructors, someone working directly with the participant, um, providing the supplies that they need. That would be a participant, participant support service. Um, so anyone working directly with the participant to provide what is necessary for them to become employed and get the training they're needing, that will be a participant service cost. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so someone who could be like functioning as like a case manager for that employment route would be allowable cost.
Yeah, as long as they're working directly with that participant and providing what is necessary for them.
Okay.
But just overhead, um, working with the program directly, no, that is not considered a participant support service.
Okay. Very good. All right. Well, thank you. I'm going to sign off.
No problem.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
It's just us. I'm going to stop the recording.
Good job, Sean. Good job, Max. Good job. You.
Okay, we have stopped